Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are stripping down the operating system of one of the most volatile figures in modern capitalism.
He's a fascinating subject.
He really is. I mean, if you were writing a character for a prestige HBO drama about Silicon Valley, someone who embodies every excess, every brilliance, and every contradiction of the industry, you would essentially write Chamath Palihapitiya.
You really would.
Yeah.
It's rare to find a single individual
Yeah.
who serves as such a perfect barometer for the industries. Well, for its id.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, because depending on which year the data you look at, he is either the scrappy refugee outsider, the ultimate insider, the social capital philanthropist, or, the guy telling you he doesn't care about human rights.
And the swings are they're violent. We're
Yeah.
talking about a guy who arrived in Canada as a refugee, worked the fryer at Burger King to keep the electricity on,
Right.
and then grows up to buy a $75 million Bombardier Global 7500 jet.
The whiplash is incredible. And socially, it's just as severe. I mean,
Yeah.
this is someone who spent 20 years as a reliable Democratic donor, rubbing shoulders with the Clintons, Obama alumni,
The whole establishment.
the whole establishment, only to turn around in June 2024 and host a massive, massive fundraiser for Donald Trump.
In the heart of San Francisco, of all places.
Exactly.
So that is the mission today. We aren't just doing a biography. We're trying to unpack the Chamath effect. How does one man go from running AOL Instant Messenger to being crowned the SPAC king?
A title he gave himself, by the way.
Of course. And then when that market completely turns on him, pivot again in 2025 to warn us all about a Sputnik moment with China.
It's an incredible series of reinventions.
It is, and we have a massive stack of sources to get through. We've got his investment letters from as recently as June 2025. We've got SEC filings, transcript records of his political activities, reporting from all over.
It is a lot to get through, but the through line is just fascinating. It's really a story about how the incentive structure of Silicon Valley has shifted over the last 2 decades.
Mm-hmm.
And Chamath he's the guy who always seems to spot the shift 5 minutes before everyone else.
He's the ultimate opportunist, in a way.
Or a visionary. It depends on your perspective.
Okay, so let's start at the absolute beginning, the origin story. Because, often when tech billionaires talk about humble beginnings, they mean their dad was a dentist instead of a neurosurgeon.
Right, right.
But the sources here, they paint a picture that is legitimately gritty.
It is pure survival mode. So he was born in Gali, Sri Lanka back in 1976, but the pivotal data point, the moment everything changes for his family, is 1986.
And they had moved to Canada at that point.
They had. His father was attached to the Sri Lankan High Commission there. But here's the thing. His father made some comments. He was criticizing the violence against Tamils during the Civil War.
And that did not go over well back home.
Not at all. That criticism cost him his post. It meant they couldn't go back. There was nothing to go back to.
So they went from being diplomats to asylum seekers.
No.
Almost overnight.
Precisely. They applied for refugee status, and the economic shock, as you can imagine, was just severe. The sources describe a household that was completely defined by precarity.
And this wasn't just, we have to tighten our belts.
No. His father struggled with alcoholism, with long-term unemployment. His mother was working housekeeping jobs just to, keep him afloat.
And this is where that Burger King detail comes in, which is so telling. He's 14 years old, flipping burgers.
And not for pocket money.
No, not for video games or concert tickets. He's doing it to help contribute to the household rent, to keep the lights on.
And you have to think, that experience, it just installs a specific kind of operating software in a person. It creates a hunger that's completely distinct from standard ambition.
It's a fear of hitting zero.
It's a fear of having zero leverage, exactly. If you look at his entire career, the aggression, the obsession with liquidity, this desire to own the platform rather than just work on it, it all traces back to that teenager wondering if they were going to lose the apartment.
He wasn't born into the club, so he had to break the door down.
He had to.
And he used a very specific tool to do it, math. He goes to the University of Waterloo for electrical engineering.
Which is basically the MIT of Canada, for anyone who doesn't know. A top-tier school.
Right. But look at his first job out of school in 1999. It's so revealing.
It is. He doesn't go to a chip manufacturer. He doesn't go build hardware. He goes to BMO Nesbitt Burns as a derivatives trader.
A trader. That is the key, isn't it?
It explains almost everything that comes after. Right out of the gate, he's not thinking like a builder in that romantic, Steve Wozniak soldering in a garage sense.
No.
He's viewing the world through the lens of arbitrage, risk, and leverage. He's a financier who just happens to understand engineering at a deep level.
But he realizes pretty quickly that the real volatility and the real upside, it isn't in Canadian banking.
No, it's in California. So in 2001, he makes the jump. He moves to the Bay Area to join Winamp,
Wow, Winamp. That's a name from the past. It really whips the llama's ass.
a legendary piece of software. And when AOL acquires Winamp, that's when Chamath enters the corporate beast. And this is where we see the first iteration of his ability to just navigate massive bureaucracies.
He climbs fast.
Incredibly fast.
Yeah.
By 2004, he's the youngest vice president in the history of AOL, and he's running the instant messaging division.
AOL, which at the time was probably the most important communication protocol on the internet for a huge chunk of the population.
It was the social network before social networks. But AOL was the past. He could see that. The future was being built, first in a dorm room and then down the road in Palo Alto.
Which brings us to Section 2, the Facebook era.
Right. So he joins Facebook in 2007. And it is so crucial to understand that he wasn't just hired there. He didn't just take a job. He effectively architected the modern discipline of growth hacking.
Let's really unpack that, because growth hacking has become this cheap buzzword for, scrappy marketing. But what was he actually doing?
He was treating user acquisition as a math problem, specifically a derivatives problem. He set up the growth team not as a marketing function, but as a product and engineering team.
So they weren't buying ads.
No. They were looking for the viral coefficient. They were analyzing the data to find the exact aha moment.
What do you mean by that?
Well, they'd find a metric like, if a user adds 7 friends in their first 10 days, they're statistically locked in for life. They'll never leave.
Okay, so once you find that magic number.
You then engineer the entire user interface to force that outcome. You prompt them, you suggest friends, you make it frictionless to hit that 7 friends in 10 days target.
So he industrialized the social graph. He turned friendship into a math equation to be optimized.
He optimized the engagement loops. And, you can't argue with the results. He was the engine room that drove them toward 1 billion users, which they hit in 2012, right after he left.
But this is also where we see the break things part of the mantra. And sometimes you break things you can't fix. We have to talk about Beacon.
Oh, yeah. Facebook Beacon. 2007.
What was the idea here?
It was. Well, it was an ad system that tracked user purchases on third-party websites.
Okay.
And then we would broadcast that activity to all your friends on Facebook.
Automatically. Wait, automatically? So if I bought a movie ticket on Fandango or, a book on another site.
All of your friends got a notification without you explicitly clicking share.
Wow. That sounds like a privacy nightmare.
It was a complete disaster. There were lawsuits, a massive public backlash. They had to shut it down by 2009. But it reveals so much about his management style. He pushes the boundary of what the user will tolerate until he hits a hard wall.
And he also had other failures there, right? It wasn't all just straight up and to the right.
No, absolutely not. The sources mention he led the Facebook phone and Facebook home initiatives. Total flops.
Right, I vaguely remember that. The phone that was just a Facebook skin.
Yeah, nobody wanted it. So he had his misses, but his reputation was built on growth. The sources cite Stephen Levy's book, Facebook, The Inside Story. The word that comes up over and over again to describe him is aggressive.
And not in a good way, necessarily.
Not always. Former subordinates described it as a pressure cooker environment. He wasn't there to make friends. He was there to make the charts go up and to the right. He was a deeply polarizing figure even back then.
But in Silicon Valley, especially at that time, if the charts are going up.
Then polarizing is just a synonym for effective. You get a pass.
Right. Until, of course, you leave and develop a conscience, or at least appear to.
Yes, the 2017 interview.
He goes on CNBC years after he's cashed out millions and drops a bombshell. He says he feels tremendous guilt.
He talks about the short-term, dopamine-driven feedback loops that he helped create. And he says they are ripping society apart. It was an absolutely viral moment.
The ultimate question here is, do we buy that? Is that genuine remorse from a father who sees the damage firsthand? Or is that Chamath, the traitor, spotting that the narrative on big tech was turning negative and positioning himself perfectly on the right side of history?
It's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the honest answer is it's probably both.
You think so?
I do. He is a father. He famously, and kind of ironically, restricts his own kids' screen time. He sees the impact. But he's also a master of branding. By criticizing the monster he helped build, he separated his personal brand from Zuckerberg's. He became the honest broker.
The insider who knows where the bodies are buried and is willing to talk.
Exactly. And he needed that brand. He needed that credibility for his next act.
Which brings us to Section 3, social capital.
He founded the firm in 2011 with his then-wife, Brigitte Lau. And initially, it was a spectacular success in the traditional VC molds. I mean, they had some massive early wins.
What were the big ones?
They got into Yammer, Box, and the really big one was Slack. A huge, huge return. By 2015, they were managing over $1 billion.
So if he had just kept doing that, he'd be on the Mount Rushmore of VCs. Another name like a John Doerr or a Ben Horowitz.
Absolutely. But in 2018, he did something very strange. He blew it up.
He restructured the entire thing.
He pivoted from a traditional venture capital firm to a family office. And for the listener, this is a really critical distinction we need to make clear.
Go ahead.
A VC firm manages other people's money. You take cash from pension funds, from university endowments. You have limited partners or LPs that you have to answer to. You have to explain your strategy, justify your bet.
But a family office
Manages your own money. You answer to no one but yourself.
So why make that switch when you're on a hot streak? When you're winning?
2 words: control and flexibility. He wanted to make bets that traditional LPs would find too risky, too long-term, or just too weird. He said he wanted to invest in atoms, not just bits.
So real-world stuff.
Exactly. Deep tech, climate solutions, space exploration, biotech, things that don't necessarily have a clear 5-year exit strategy.
And this brings us to the present day, or very close to it. In his 2024 and 2025 investment letters, this thesis has crystallized into something very, very specific. He calls it a Sputnik moment.
This is from his June 2025 letter. It's a stark warning. He writes that he believes China has achieved functional parity with the United States in foundational AI models.
Parity, not catching up. He's saying they're there.
He's saying they are there. He believes the era of effortless American tech dominance, the one he personally profited from, is over.
Wow, so what is he doing about it? How is he positioning his own capital?
Well, he thinks the U.S. is at risk of losing the future.
Yeah.
So he is pivoting his entire $2.1 billion portfolio into what he calls hard tech.
Give us some examples.
Companies like Grok, that's G-R-O-Q, which is building AI inference chips, a direct competitor to NVIDIA's dominance. And another one is Palmetto, which is focused on residential clean energy grids.
So he's betting that the next $1 trillion won't be made in a new photo-sharing app,
Go.
but in the fundamental infrastructure of national survival.
That's it, exactly. And he also believes the entire macroeconomic environment has fundamentally changed. He's very bearish on the Federal Reserve's ability to control things.
How so?
He argues that long-term interest rates are going to stay high, not because of the Fed, but because the rest of the world is getting really worried about the level of U.S. debt.
So the era of cheap money that fueled the last tech boom is over.
It's over.
Yeah.
And you can't just rely on financial engineering anymore. You need to back businesses that actually produce tangible value.
Which is deeply, deeply ironic because the vehicle he used to deliver value to retail investors became synonymous with the exact opposite of that.
Oh, yes.
We had to talk about the SPAC era, Section 4.
The rise and fall of the SPAC king.
For those who blinked during the pandemic and missed this whole frenzy, can you just remind us what a SPAC is?
Sure. A SPAC is a special purpose acquisition company. And it's basically a blank check company.
A shell company.
A shell company, exactly. You list it on the stock market. It has no business, no product, just a huge pile of cash raised from investors. And you, the sponsor, have 2 years to go find a private company and merge with it, taking that company public through the back door.
And Chamath didn't just participate in this, he became the face of the entire movement.
He did. He went on TV, he went on podcasts, and he pitched it as a moral crusade. That's not an exaggeration. He said he was democratizing access to high-growth tech.
I remember the pitch so clearly. He was telling the retail investor, the VCs on Sand Hill Road keep all the good deals for themselves. I'm giving you a seat at the table.
That was the narrative. And for a while, it was pure euphoria.
The first one was Virgin Galactic, right?
Virgin Galactic, ticker IPOA, the space tourism play. The stock, it ripped. It was incredible.
Right.
Then came Open Door, the real estate company. Then Clover Health, a Medicare tech company. Then the fintech SoFi.
He was on fire. People were buying anything with his name on it.
Anything. But then, well, gravity kicked in.
It wasn't just a correction. It was a bloodbath.
An absolute bloodbath. Let's look at the numbers we pulled from the source material. By 2021-2022, the collapse was total.
Let's hear them.
Virgin Galactic fell from a high of around $46 to $5. Clover Health went from $28 to $4. Open Door from $30 down to $5.
Thanks, SoFi.
From $25 to $3.
So if you were a listener who bought into that democratization pitch at the top,
Right.
you didn't get a seat at the table. You got taken to the cleaners.
You got wiped out. And this is where the really serious technical criticism of Chamath comes in. It's all about something called the promote.
Explain that.
In a standard SPAC structure, the sponsor in this case, Chamath, gets a large chunk of equity, usually around 20% of the company, effectively for free. It's his reward for setting up the deal.
Wait, for free, so his cost basis is essentially zero.
Essentially zero, which means he makes money even if the stock goes down.
A lot.
A lot. Even if the stock drops 50%, he is still deep in the green.
So his interests were not aligned with the investors he was supposedly democratizing for.
Not at all. He had an incentive to close any deal, good or bad, just to unlock his founder shares. The retail investor, on the other hand, needed a good deal to make a return. The incentives were totally misaligned.
It led to investor lawsuits, congressional hearings.
A massive reputational hit. Things got so bad he even had to liquidate two of his biggest SPACs, the ones with the tickers IPOD and IPOF, in September 2022 because he just couldn't find any companies to merge with. He had to return the money.
You would think that would be the end of the SPAC story for him, that he would, walk away from that model forever.
You would think. But Chamath's superpower is that he has absolutely no shame about reinventing himself.
He just keeps coming back.
He does. Fast forward to September 2025, he is back.
With a new ticker.
And you can't make this up. It's called the American Exceptionalism Acquisition Corp. A.
Oh, come on.
I'm serious. It's listed on the NYSE. He raised $345 million. But look at the target sectors he's now focused on.
Let me guess. Not consumer tech.
Not at all. Energy, AI defense, decentralized finance.
So American exceptionalism, it's not just a financial vehicle, it's a political statement. It's a brand.
It connects every thread. It links his financial interest with his new hawkish geopolitical worldview. He has completely abandoned the democratized consumer tech narrative and adopted a national defense narrative. He's betting on the reindustrialization of America.
And this dovetails perfectly into the other big piece of news from 2025, the 80-90 thesis. This is Section 5.
Right. And this is arguably his most disruptive idea yet.
Yeah.
Because he's not targeting some new industry. He's targeting the very industry that created him, enterprise software.
What is the 80-90 promise?
The pitch is simple and brutal. He says, I can build you enterprise software with 80% of the features of Salesforce or Workday for 90% less cost.
90% cheaper. How is that even possible? That sounds completely insane.
He claims he can do it by combining two massive deflationary forces: modern AI coding tools and cheaper offshore engineering talent.
So robots and cheap engineers, basically.
That's the formula. He calls it the software factory. He launched this new incubator in January 2024, and his core thesis is that American companies have what he calls SaaS fatigue.
I think we all have that.
We all do. Companies are sick of paying $50 per seat per month for bloated software that has a million features nobody actually uses.
So he's saying, forget the subscription. I'll build you a custom, stripped-down version for a fraction of the price because AI writes half the code now anyway.
Precisely. He is trying to commoditize custom software. He's making a huge bet that the era of the $300,000 San Francisco junior developer is over.
And if he's right about that.
If he is right, the profit margins of the entire SaaS industry are going to collapse. It would be an extinction-level event for many of them.
He's effectively shorting the entire Silicon Valley ecosystem that he came from.
He is shorting the status quo, and that burn-it-all-down attitude, it extends directly to his politics. Which brings us to Section 6, the political metamorphosis.
This is the part that I think confuses people the most, because for 2 decades, from 2000 to 2019, Chamath was a blue-chip Democrat.
Solidly blue. The records show he donated over $1.3 million to Democratic candidates and causes. He co-founded FWD.US with Mark Zuckerberg to lobby for immigration reform. He was part of the machinery.
He even flirted with running for governor of California as a Democrat during the Gavin Newsom recall effort in 2021.
He did. He had a whole platform worked out and everything. Eliminate the state income tax, introduce school vouchers, a $2,000 tax credit per child.
But then he backed out.
He declared he would not run in February 2021. And that seems to be the real turning point.
Because after that, the drift to the right wasn't a drift. It was a sprint.
A full-on sprint.
Yeah.
By 2023, he's hosting a $50,000 per plate fundraiser for Vivek Ramaswamy. But the signal fire, The moment everyone really paid attention was June 2024,
The Trump
the
fundraiser?
Trump fundraiser,
Yeah.
co-hosted with his All In podcast co-host David Sachs at Sachs's home in Pacific Heights.
And for anyone listening who's not familiar with San Francisco geography, Pacific Heights is,
Right.
it's the old money. It's Nancy Pelosi's district. It is the absolute heart of the Democratic establishment.
Exactly. So planting a mag-fag there in that neighborhood was a deliberate act of provocation. They raised $12 million that night. It signaled a massive vibe shift in at least one very loud corner of Silicon Valley.
So what's driving it? Is it really just that they want lower taxes and less regulation?
That's definitely part of it. But I think it's deeper. The sources suggest it's about acceleration. There's this feeling among that group, the all-in podcast crew, that the Democratic Party has become the party of regulation, of safetyism, of slowing things down,
The party of no.
the party of no. And they see the Republicans, specifically the Trump wing, as the party of chaos and disruption. And if you're a venture capitalist, your entire business model is based on disruption. You prefer it.
Even if that disruption comes with some considerable baggage, which leads us directly to the baggage. Section 7, hard truths and controversies. We have to talk about the Orger comments.
January 2022. This was the moment the mask didn't just slip, it fell off completely.
It was on the All In podcast. His co-host Jason Calacanis brought up the human rights abuses against the Orger people in China.
And Chamath just cut him off. He said, and this is direct quotes in the transcript, "Nobody cares about what's happening to the Uyghurs, okay? The rest of us don't care. I'm just telling you a very hard, ugly truth."
It was the coldness of the delivery that was so shocking. He said, of all the things that I care about, yes, it is below my line.
He tried to rationalize it afterward. He argued that he prioritizes domestic issues. He mentioned black voices in America, supply chains, the economy over foreign human rights abuses. But the way it landed, it just sounded like he was dismissing a genocide as an inconvenient distraction from business.
The fallout was immediate.
Instant. The Golden State Warriors issued a statement within hours, basically saying, this guy does not speak for us in any way.
Right.
You have to remember, he owned 10% of the team at the time.
And he eventually sold that stake, didn't he?
He divested his shares completely in June 2023. It just solidified this public image of him as someone who values what he calls brutal honesty over any kind of empathy.
He seems to think that moralizing is a luxury that we can't afford when we're in the middle of an economic war.
That's his framing, yes. And it's the same kind of energy as that famous fight he had with Ron Conway way back in 2014.
Oh, the San Francisco housing fight. Refresh my memory on that.
Chamath was publicly proposing a new tax on startup equity to help fund subsidized housing for the poor in San Francisco.
Which sounds like a progressive position.
It does, until Ron Conway, who's sort of the godfather of Silicon Valley, just yelled at him in a public forum. He pointed out that Chamath was living in a mega mansion in Palo Alto while criticizing San Francisco politics. It just highlighted that constant tension between Chamath the Crusader and Chamath the billionaire.
Speaking of Chamath the billionaire, let's wrap up with Section 8, personal life and wealth. Because the lifestyle is, in a way, part of the message.
It really is. It's the billionaire starter pack, but dialed up to 11. He divorced his first wife and business partner, Brigitte Lau, in 2018. Then in 2023, he married Natalie Dompe, who is an Italian pharmaceutical executive and heiress. He has 5 kids in total.
And despite building his entire fortune on creating engagement loops and hacking attention, he famously bans screen time for his own kids.
Strictly. It's the classic rule, right? The dealer never consumes his own product. He knows better than anyone how the algorithm targets the brainstem and rewires it.
And the toys. The status symbols.
Well, the big one is the Bombardier Global 7500 jet. He bought it in 2020 for $75 million. It's a machine that's quite literally designed to shrink the globe for its owner.
But he does give money away. To be fair to the source record, there is philanthropy here.
There is. He gave $25 million to his alma mater, the University of Waterloo, for their engineering department. And he pledged $7 million for solar-powered water generators in California's Central Valley.
So his philanthropy is very techno-solutionist.
Very. He doesn't give to soup kitchens. He gives to engineering problems. He wants to fund a technical fix.
Okay, so let's try to synthesize all of this. We have a refugee who became a derivative trader, who became a growth hacker, who became a VC, who became the SPAC king, and now he's an AI defense industrialist. What is the pattern here? What's the through line?
I think the pattern is fear.
Fear. That's the last word I would use to describe him. He seems like the most confident, arrogant guy in any room he's in.
I think it's the confidence of someone who is constantly running away from an avalanche.
Yeah.
His entire career is based on a single premise, that the current system is fragile and about to break.
And he needs to be on the next life raft before anyone else.
Before anyone else even knows the ship is sinking. He realized the internet would break traditional media, so he went to Facebook. He realized sauce was bloated and overpriced, so he's building a factory to automate it. He thinks the geopolitical order is breaking.
So he's buying defense stocks and wrapping himself in the American flag.
Exactly. He is the master of the pivot because he has zero loyalty to the status quo. The status quo is what he escaped from as a child.
And that brings us to the final provocation for today.
Let's hear it.
Here's the thought I want to leave you with, listeners. Chamath is currently betting his fortune, his reputation, everything on American exceptionalism, on the idea that the U.S. will win the AI war against China. But his entire pitch is based on warning us that we are currently losing that war.
It is the ultimate hedge. It's a beautiful trade.
It is. Think about it. If America gets its act together and wins, his defense and AI stocks go to the moon.
Right.
But if America struggles, if the economy tanks and companies are desperate to cut costs, his 80/90 software factory, his cost-cutting tools become absolutely essential for corporate survival. He's engineered a scenario where heads or tails, the house wins.
And when you look at it that way, all the contradictions they disappear. He isn't really a Democrat or a Republican. He isn't a hero or a villain.
He's a traitor.
He's a traitor. And a trader only cares about one thing, being on the right side of the trade.
Something to mull over. Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you on the next one.